Hello everyone, I'm Sidival and today we continue reading World and Economica. Um, so, in previous episode, or maybe it will be better say previous part, previous stream, since game has word episode in the title. Anyway, so yeah, in previous stream we seen few interesting moments. Um, it was do things right, and eventually it's nobody fault. Um, so this conversation I kind of feel was not like super important. I mean, it more maybe it feels not really important for us since it was like really expected. It probably was important for Haru to actually hear what's going on. So yeah, much more interesting conversation was between Kagane and Haru when she actually well, let's say explain why she don't like Haru. Um, a loan collector guy, I don't remember his name, um, and in which we pretty much seen what he is actually a good person. Um, well, yeah, and then there's pretty much a conversation between loan collector guy and Lisa, but we don't know what they talk about. Obviously, there's some problem with money, but yeah, for now we don't know. Um, yeah, and now there was conversation about, I mean, explanation about this money tournament or something, or whatever it was. But to be honest, I don't understand. I mean, okay, it will be not to say what I don't understand everything at all. It was not that hard, but mm, let's say I understand pink in general, but it still feels like too much explanations. So anyway, mm, for now we know what Haru still don't start trading and waiting for right moment and pretty much just gather information. But he don't have a lot of time left since he was um, ultra slave. Um, oh yeah, he was invited to these things pretty much in the end. So yeah. Mm, well, I guess it's all. So let's continue. It's next then day after. I mean, after all of this, since it was everything in one day. Um, but yeah, previous stream was ended on Lisa speaking with loan collector. Um, well, pretty much that. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, let's continue. Let me drink a little water. Well, it's not water. It's how how to say compote in English. Yes, it's just compote. Okay. So yeah, drink compote. Anyway, it's not important. Let's continue. Um, the next day was a day off. The actual markets were closed. The investment contest virtual markets were likewise closed. So yeah, it was expect to us what it actually work in same days than actual markets. Hmm, I kind of feel it's a little bit strange since it's mean people can't really make money then why they participated this thing hmm, in this contest. But okay, I mean I guess they probably don't really invite people who don't make money, so they probably expect people have savings or at least some income. Hmm, anyway, apparently server maintenance and data aggregation were necessary, and thus I had nothing to do. As for actual trading, I poured over every bit of news in the morning that was of any value or effect. Occasionally, when I looked at the news, it seems as if something new was happening every day these days. But if you followed the news for at least a week, it was clear that this was not the case. Hmm. Thus, with nothing better to do, I headed out in the afternoon. It was possible I'd have a run in with the law if I loitered around here on the weekday afternoon, and that was enough to keep me shut in. But when I was living at home, I would often spend my days outdoors. If I didn't get out and do some exercises from time to time, I'd rot. Besides, I would most likely run into Hagana if I stayed in the church. As for Lisa, after Tayama came by, she unexpectedly had begun to meditate all the time. So, okay, this guy, this loan collector guy's, uh, his name is Tayama. And yes, we can see there's definitely some problem with money. I packed the computer on my back and slung it over my shoulder. After tying my shoelaces, I headed up to the front door and headed out. Today was a clear day, and probably due to the days of rain that washed the atmosphere, I was able to see clearly for a fair distance. The laundry fluttered in part of the third floor yard, while lilies bloomed in the corner. Their numbers diminished because I had pulled some out earlier. Though the landscape in front of me seems so tranquil, I was bothered by the number of problems that had cropped up. When I thought about them, the vastness and closeness of space right outside of the dome increased vague fears in me. I feel completely alone out here. But the more I thought about it, the more I knew it couldn't be solved. Hmm. Well, yeah, I completely forgot, but the conversation between Hagana and Haru actually, I guess, give him something like an existential crisis. Anyway, I shook my head. I shook my head and took off, kicking off from roofs and walls. I hadn't decided on where to go. Instead, I had decided on what to do. Hmm? Hey, new pe- new character. Huh. Hmm, I believe we see his name. Is is it uh Chris' parents' company? Not sure. Как Рифельспинг? Hmm, hmm. If I believe translated it read Kun. Okay. Kunko. When I asked the stout old lady sang piping hot steamed buns out front, She handed one with a pair of tongs to a customer and responded, I don't know whatever or not. Ah, it's Haru talking. I don't know whether or not they have a storefront or not. Ah, the delivery company, I believe. What did you need with them? So yeah, it's Chris company. I believe your name was Chris. Anyway, I see. Do you know where I should go to meet the firm? At Formals for one, the minced vegetable, and meat one was a good size and tasty. While having one in lieu of lunch, I asked the old lady at the shop about Chris' whereabouts. So yeah, your name is Chris. Um, just a minute. Let's see now. Since today is Sunday, if you're looking for Chris, she's out on the third block doing a delivery. Wait, why he's looking for Chris? Um, the answer came from a customer passing by who'd overheard my question. Third block? Yep, right by the tunnel that connects to a fifth outer section. On off days she usually over here, lazing about. Ah, over there, huh? It was a favorite spot of mine. The old man who gave me that information processed to purchase 5 steamed buns. The old lady quickly restocked the steamer with fresh buns. Thanks, I'll be off now. Sure, old lady, give me a few of these big ones, will you? I heard the old man joke around as I turned around, stuffed the one in my mouth, and prepared to run off. Was taught by the old lady who'd handed the buns to the old man. Ah, wait a moment. In films I'd seen, there would always be someone playing the thief who would say something like, what kind of idiot would stop then told to stop? Ever since I left home and gotten used to being chased, those words had strong impact on me. That was why I hesitated for a moment, switching into a stance where I could run away at a moment's notice, and turned around. When I did that, the old lady took her tongues and placed a bun in front of me. If you are going to meet with Chris, please hand this to her. And she's a bit too skinny if you ask me. The words of the old lady, whose face was round like your steamed buns, was enough to pursue me. Okay. So she's a good person. Mm, I mean, I wanted to say what I'm not sure why she has a model. Yeah, I mean, image. But when again, if I be thinking about it, I believe for almost all characters what we meet for now actually has um, images, so it makes sense. It's usually backgrounds what we don't see sometimes. Hmm. Because from characters I can remember what we don't see only we don't see family from cafe when Lisa worked, and we don't see our Hagana's students. But besides that, yeah, I believe for every character has image. Um, like there was Cops before, then was this guy from Internet Cafe, then Haru lived before. Also, for some reason, I thinking what this guy from Internet Cafe is important, or at least will be important in the future. But we don't really see him from the start of the game, so maybe I'm wrong. It just, I believe Lisa actually also mentioned him, and because of that, I believe he should be an important character. Anyway. I nodded obediently and took the piping hot bun. I will be sure to give it to her. I'm counting on you. She didn't even ask for money, so there was no reason for me to be suspicious. At the side of the shop was a stray cat napping in the glow of the sun. I certainly didn't dislike this kind of atmosphere on the outside. The pompous denizens of the white belt thought they lived in a nice area were certainly not this open. Everyone was suspicious of each other, and the mood showed it. Naturally, the residents of the white belt who made up the middle and upper class of society were they're always in constant competition with each other in Newton City. So what was probably to be expected. But if I could become just as dull as them by getting wrapped up in this competition, then I had better exercise caution. As I thought about that, I ran towards the third block as mentioned to me earlier. On the lunar surface, the temperature and humidity level were fairly consistent year-round. I heard that it was most similar to spring on Earth. The temperature and we were made for a glorious day, I felt, enough to make you perspire when exercising after eating a meal. Mm, I mean, spring on Earth it's kinda little like spring where on the Earth. I mean, I guess it's mean Japan. Hmm. Anyway, after closing myself up in my room for a week, I was ready for some release as I leapt, hopped, and navigated the extreme heights and lows of this town. One reason I enjoyed exercise outside of the fact that I had learned how useful it was to condition my body was that I put away distracting thoughts when in motion as I pushed forward. To be able to fly through the air through this town on a nice afternoon was a great, indesirable feeling. Indescribable. Indescribable feeling. I leaped from rooftop to rooftop, and soon I was at a cliff, in the third block connecting to the fifth outer section. The only way up was a route path that ran around the edge. But I had no intention of going that way, so I ran like a cat up the side of the wall. Hmm? Okay. Due to low gravity, there were traffic signs by the cliffs for the sake of others who do the same thing. I used the cycle as a stepping stone to take one more flying leap. Just at, just at that moment, an old lady on an electric scooter came out of the town from the direction of the five outer section, and seeing me jump up from the bottom of the cliff did startle her a bit. As for me, I thought nothing of it, and once I reached the road, I looked towards the sixth outer section. They said that she was in this area making a delivery, but I couldn't see her from up here. Just, I, just as I thought about that while I stared out in the distance, I heard a voice above and behind me. Ah, I turned around towards that familiar voice, and sitting on top of the tunnel was Chris. Next to her was a large bag, and in her hands was that beat-up terminal of hers she'd carry around. Thinking that I was pretty lucky to find her this quickly, I grabbed the bun that the old lady gave me. I chuckled it at Chris without saying a word. Ah, what? It's from the old lady at the steamed bun shop. Told you to eat up. Ah, I see. Hmm. While Chris looked at the wrapped package in confusion, she swallowed the saliva in her mouth. Just as I always did, I leaped towards the tree on the side of the road. Then, using that as a foothold, I did a three-point jump and leaped to the top of the tunnel. Chris pulled away the paper timidly and didn't seem at all surprised as I leaped up to her. Perhaps Chris also moved like I did when she made her deliveries. What are you doing here? I asked my question just as Chris bit into the van. Due to the timing, Chris became flustered, and uh, a large chunk of the bun in her mouth. Oh, sorry, no need to be in panic. Mm-hmm. Chris nodded dutifully, and after munching for a bit, she gulped with satisfaction. So, what are you doing here? I asked her once more, and Chris poured something out of her canteen into a cup before answering. I'm studying. But isn't it Sunday? Ah, yes. I was just intending to make a small talk, but somehow Chris took that to mean that she was somehow in the wrong and looked downcast. I was a bit surprised as I continued. No, well, there's nothing wrong with that, I think. You're studying math, right? Yes. That's pretty cool. Huh? When it comes to studying, I always felt it was something you did in a darkened room just grinning away. But to study out here in relaxed manner is, well, pretty cool. But was not entirely a lie. Lisa had once told me about a great artist or something who would seek out good places to isolate themselves in order to think through an important problem. But what I saw in front of me was entirely different from what I imagined. There was a large bug next to her, which made it seem as if she was just taking a break on the way to a delivery. It looked like she was using it as a cushion. In her hand was a canteen. And while taking occasional sips from the steaming, warm-looking tea in her cup, she seemed to be in deep thoughts as she looked at the beautiful scenery in front of her. This relaxing atmosphere was perfectly fitting for a calm girl like Chris, I realized. Well, however, it seems that Chris wasn't used to being praised like that. She looked away anxiously before becoming downcast again. But then, it was easy to see from her radiant face that she didn't exactly hate that, either. In any case, your mind is going to get cold. When I said that, she took a fleeting glimpse at the steamed bun, and looked at me again before looking back down. She then timidly started eating the bun. She was just like a small creature, and I had to hold back to keep from teasing her. I knew that Chris felt somewhere awkward as I stood up and gazed out of scenery from the top of the tunnel. However, it appeared that Chris had finally gotten over her timidness, and she bravely stuffed her cheeks with the bun. I saw a good opening at the moment to break the ice. Hey, there is something I want to ask you. Okay, so he again speaking, then she actually eating. Anyway. Her obedient reply contrasted sharply with the fact that she was talking with her mouth full. Her lips had some bits of minced meat on them, and she wiped her mouth hurriedly when I pointed it out. You're friendly with Hagana, right? Our family cat, and then examined by the mass observation equipment on the orbital elevator, was probably just a stray that survived hitching a ride to the moon despite decompression and low temperatures. But then you splashed water in its face, it looked at you like she was looking at me now. Okay. I kind of was surprised why he started thinking about cat, but okay. Makes sense. But our cat could leap at me angrily when it came to its senses. Please look at me with upturned eyes, seemingly asking me if I was angry at her. So, there is something I wanted to ask. Since I had been standing while Chris had been sitting, I was physically looking down at her, and I raised my eyes for the first time. Doubt I realized that this was kind of pitiful. I guess I really was feeling awkward asking a question like that. Do you happen to know what Kagana likes? Okay, makes sense. So probably he gonna buy something or do something else to like apologize to Hagana. I mean, they still need to talk, like properly talk. He need to explain about what he actually make. Have money? Probably. I mean, there is a fact he don't really must to do it, like, but he can to do it if he want. Like, to be honest, they kinda still a little bit strangers with Hagana. So it makes sense what he don't really explain everything about him. Mm, but anyway. Mhm. Let's continue. Uh, Second. Um, I tried to figure out the quickest way to resolve the unfathomable situation eating away at me, and this was my solution. Mm-hmm. We started to talk, but apparently she then realized that there was still some of that bun in her mouth. She closed her eyes in confusion before chewing and swallowing the rest of it, and sighed in relief before rephrasing what she was going to say. You're talking about Miss Hagana. Yeah, you look like you come to the church often. So do you know anything? Chris looked dumbfounded as she looked at me, looking at me with innocent eyes, as thought wondering what I was trying to say. I was still feeling awkward. I didn't look back at Chris. So, in her Chris-like way, she must have thought that she had some strange misunderstanding of the situation. As her cheeks suddenly turned red, as she clasped her hands together. Well, for Miss Hagana? Don't get the wrong idea here. I brought my face closer in a threatening manner. Chris closed her eyes quickly and brought her hands up over her head, in defense as she curled up, but of course I wasn't going to hit her. I sat her up and she opened one eye and looked up at me cautiously. Well, because of a simple mistake, I did something bad to Hagana. Something bad? A lot happened. I had a sore expression as I said it, which caused Chris to avert her eyes somewhat as she spoke timidly. So, well, it's something to give her by way of an apology, right? In the simplest sense, yes. Ah. As Chris said it, her expression changed. She had a distant look on her face, as if she was thinking about something, but perhaps because she usually came here to think about math problems, it was more extreme. Just a quick glimpse at her made it hard to tell if she was a guy or girl. Looking at her like that, though, I somehow had this feeling that someday she'd grow up to be a very beautiful woman. With the sound of small motor, a single passenger electric bike left the tunnel. That was then Chris looked at me and spoke. You're a good person, aren't you? Huh? My response might have been unintentionally strong, but Chris fell back suddenly, and I could hear her start to giggle aloud. It doesn't matter whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy. So, do you have any ideas or not? Ah, yes. Think Miss Hagana likes, right? I said this obediently, and with some hesitation. Something this annoying was definitely a very girlish trait. Hmm. I must definitely be bad when it comes to girls. No matter the situation, I hated how I felt like a kid when there was a girl in front of me. She doesn't really say much about this sort of stuff. Anything works. Anything that she might have an interest in perhaps. Something she has interest in. I mean, from things what we already know, it's probably to be something what connects math. Mm. Anyway. Times she seemed to have a frank personality. Perhaps this kind of talk didn't happen often. But as I waited patiently as Chris pondered this matter, Chris looked up suddenly and said something. Ah, you taught us something? Ah, no. Well, What? My question. Chris pointed towards the front of the road uh, at the bottom of the tunnel and then spoke. There's Miss Hagana. Hmm? I looked out in front of me, and it did appear that Hagana was on the path heading our way. Thanks to the slope of the hill, it did not appear that she knew that I was here. I was panicking as I realized that things would be bad if she saw me here. Keep quiet about me coming here. After I said that to Chris, I turned towards the cliff behind me and leaped into the thicket of trees there. Chris followed me with her eyes as I went, but before long she could hear Hagana calling out to her, as she turned around in panic. However, Hagana wasn't about to ascend to the top of the tunnel, so Chris gathered up her things, headed down, and disappeared from sight. Hagana's timing was rather annoying, but it was just a matter of panic and our opportunity to talk to Chris. It was also possible that she was sharper than I took her for, and would discreetly try to get Hagana to tell her about her interest. I held on that hope as I hid myself within the space between the unnaturally planted giant trees. But I couldn't stop wondering how Hagana had happened upon this place all of a sudden. There is no way that she have come looking for me. Perhaps Hagana needed to talk to Chris. Perhaps it was about her studies. That's what I thought. But remembering how Hagana looked as she walked down the path, I wonder if there was not something else in her mind. It's not that I wouldn't be able to eavesdrop on them if I tried, but there would be no way to talk my way out of it if I were to be discovered. So I meekly took a detour and headed back to the church. Hmm, okay. Is there a chance that Hagana also wanted to apologizing to Karu? Hmm, I mean, I'm not sure about it. I not completely understand her character. Hmm, anyway, Lisa wasn't in the living room, so I guess she was in her room. I made some coffee, I headed back to my room and turned on the computer. In order to solve one problem, I made a single move. Thus, my next move for the next problem was to take a look at the stocks. Hmm. However, the quiet of the church apparently was merely the calm before the storm, as they said back on Earth. Yes, sorry. There's people talking in our room. I hope it didn't hear on stream. I make gain on my mic a little bit lower. I hope it's gonna help. Um, anyway, several hours later, from far away, I could hear the muffled sound of telephone. Immediately afterwards, from the second floor, I could hear Lisa hurried footsteps heading downstairs. Mm. It can be 3 hours since Lisa rushed out of the church. Hmm? Interesting. The day had already turned dark, and after having eaten only one steamed bun for lunch, I was definitely hungry now. The church had fallen silent, an indicator that Lisa and Hagana had not returned yet. Mm, is there something with Hagana? Hmm. Lisa had undoubtedly left in a hurry because of Hagana. Did she perhaps get scolded by the police? But I felt that there wasn't reason to rush like that if there were simply the case. Besides, it was Lisa's hobby to shelter people like her, so I figured she would have been calmer about it. So if that were the case, after all I could think of were stash like Kagana's parents finding her, or her being about to get caught and needed help. And thus I was only worried, pacing back and forth in the living room, thinking peeks through the curtains. The timing of the phone ringing in quiet living room made me jump in surprise pathetically. I would have been more hesitant if Lisa's terminal had rung, but the ringing came from the phone on the wall, so I picked up after a fifth ring. Hello? Ah, hello? I was relieved to hear Lisa's voice, but at the same time I realized she hadn't contacted me for several hours after leaving without a word, making annoyance well up in me. But before I could complain about this, Lisa continued talking. I'll be home soon, so could you start the bath for me? Hmm? Huh? Make sure it's hot. Also, in the cupboard I've set aside some cocoa, so go ahead and make some. Make it as sweet as you can. Hmm. Okay, I feel it's probably something about Hagan. Because I don't think Lisa asking it just for herself. I mean, it's obviously she didn't ask it for herself. Hmm, interesting. Cocoa, bath, better yet, where are... Before I could finish... Sorry. Before I could finish, Lisa hung up. Look at the telephone receiver I had just been talking into, and firstly put it back in place. Why did I have to take orders involving baths and cocoa without an explanation? While fuming, I thought I would ignore her request, but in the end I reconsidered and started the water for the bath. After that, I followed Lisa's instruction. I rummaged through the cupboard to find a package that contained that appeared to be high-grade cocoa, and I prepared it according to the recipe on the back. Wait, did I pronounce cocoa correctly? Not sure about this. Hmm, I guess last day is silent. Cocoa. Hmm, okay, cocoa. Okay. Hmm, um, while while milk was boiling in the saucepan, the delightful fragrance was enough to make me want some too. And when I went to fetch an extra cup, I heard the sound of a door opening and closing from within the church. Wondering about her finally being back and standing wearily, doubt I hadn't really done much of anything. I turned off the stove since the milk had started boiling. Well, the hot cocoa is almost done. Just, uh, just as I took the saucepan in my hand and poured the milk into a cup, Hagana walked through the living room with great strides and dove into her room. Hmm? Hagana not with Lisa. Okay, interesting. That wasn't really an exaggeration. As she slammed off her door with all her might, seemed to shake the church itself. Hmm. Okay, they are together. Hmm. Interesting. But what's going on? Lisa frozen in her tracks in the middle of the living room, looking like she was about to call out to Hagana to stop her. The always calm, something dim-witted but dependable older woman was nowhere to be seen. She was so tired she didn't even notice me looking at her, as her outstretched hand towards Hagana eventually faltered. And when she realized what I was looking at her, she let out a small laugh. Thinking but I might have seen something that I shouldn't have, I went back to pouring milk into the cup. Did you prepare it right? Lisa turned towards my back and said those words. Thought you would be talking about something else right now. That was what I thought to myself, but I couldn't outright criticize her. Well, probably. I see. I'm sure if I turned around, I would see Lisa with a strange smile on her face. I didn't want to see Lisa like that, so I focused on pouring milk instead. Oh, are you making two? I almost spilled the milk when I heard that. Ah, yeah, I suppose so. Could you hand me one cup? At those words, I finally turned around, and I was startled. At first, it was dark, so I didn't notice it, but it was clear that the lower part of her right eye was swollen. Hmm? What happened? Hmm? To my words, Lisa inspected her top and pants. The feeling of irritation as I looked at her overrode the feeling of how silly her actions were. Your face. Ah, as soon as Lisa realized it, she looked up and with her right hand touched her face with her slender fingers. Seeing how painful that looked made my face flinch in reaction. It was nothing. I just ran into something. It was nothing. I don't know about how it works on Earth, but on the moon that doesn't look like it was nothing. When I knew about Newton's third law of motion. Lower gravity means less weight, and less weight means less impact. I knew from experience because I had traded many of below. Lisa looked embarrassed and had a strange smile on her face as I saw through her ruse. She then looked towards me. Would you mind giving me some cacao? Uh, anyway. Normally, I'd be angry at her for dodging the question. However, I couldn't say any more with Lisa in front of me. At the very least, my face showed my displeasure as I stirred the cup I had poured milk into and placed it on the table. Thank you. Lisa smiled as she thanked me and took a seat at the table. After that, acting as if she had just returned from a trip into a freezer, she held the cup in her hands, blew on it several times, and then sipped lightly from it. It was at the point that I realized I had forgotten to put sugar in, but it seems that Lisa didn't mind it at all. Or rather, it felt like she wasn't really sensing the taste at all. Her attention wasn't on that in front of her, but somewhere else. Mm. I deliberately slammed the sugar jar on the table with a thud. Sugar. Ah, thank you. After saying that, she dropped a single sugar cube into her cup listlessly. And then, as if being satisfied with that single action, she didn't pick the cup back up. Well, I couldn't take it any longer. I asked the question. This reaction was slow, and I thought she was just ignoring me at first. But she slowly looked up at me. What happened? Um, Sorry, I'm constantly bracing. Uh, right. Mm, why am always forgetting simple words? I know this word. Uh, Button. How I can forget the word button? Anyway, I'm sorry. I constantly misclicking right button of the mouse, which show this menu. Hmm. Anyway, assuming of a preloader, it's not like I had any direct connection to Hagana or Lisa, but I felt that I had right to ask. Do I have to talk about it? And then, like a child, Lisa responded to me, smiling slightly. Rather than getting angry, I was getting scared. And then I gathered up some strength with me and spoke. Well, I did make you this hot cocoa. I had a sour expression on my face. Then I spoke, and Lisa looked at the cup of cocoa in her hands before looking at me once more. I could see that her face looked so relieved as she was blowing on the cocoa. That's true. You did make cocoa for me. I also prepared the bath. Well, I suppose at this point I can't just say nothing then. Lisa drank her cocoa and signed. Then silence was long, and I felt that if it were to drag on any longer, it'd be stifling enough to knock me over. Yesterday, Tayama came over, remember? Tayama? Yeah. This was a continuation of that talk. After saying that, Lisa drank the cold once more. Hmm, interesting. They weren't words of explanation, but even without my urging, I had faith that Lisa would explain everything. Yesterday's talk was, well, I suppose you could say simply a demand with regards to the loan. Huh? I raised my voice unintentionally in response, but I just paid the interest. Yes, Taya was grateful for that. That was why he was so polite, you know. Now that she mentioned it, it was true that Taya wasn't really being coercive. He was actually being humble and apologetic. On top of that, he even offered up a prayer to the statue of a crucified man at the altar. Perhaps he was well aware that he'd come with an unreasonable request. The loan, you see, he asked for it to be paid back in full. In War stopped there as I did some number crunching in my head with regards to the financial situation of the church. The loan was at 50,000 mules, with a monthly interest payment at 200 mules. However, I didn't even get back the 200 mules I had put up. Given that there was no possibility of paying back the loan in full, what do you have to? Is it written in the contract? No, the loan is indefinite. Yama always does it like that. I can only loan money out to people I trust, so pay it back whatever you can, he would say. It sounded like a nice deal, but interest was still being collected. Hence, the situation was the same. However, Tayam did have a financial baker. Baker? This person gave him the original funds that let him loan out money to people. Ah, and that financial baker appears to have passed away in the hospital. Hmm. So that was the reason why Lisa needed to repay the entire amount. But on the other hand, with his financial baker dead, wouldn't that be a good thing for Tayama? The person who gave Tayama money was apparently someone he knew back on Earth, and had a very uncertain condition for borrowing, he said. And when he died, a relative of his from Earth arrived and sold the loan document Tayama had to someone else. Ah, I see. It wasn't hard to understand that. Yes, I can't blame those people either, but it put Tayama in a difficult situation. Up until now, it was a sloppily written contract, but because he had known that man for such a long time, they had mockingly added some extra stipulation to the contract. Tayama actually never managed to make a profit. Ah, I totally had a hunch. An unsecured loan at 6% interest isn't feasible. Speaking of which, Hal, you did mention that before, didn't you? And because of that, they approached Tayama to pay all that money back. The total amount is well over 800,000 moons, I think. 8. What amount of money was enough to build a nice small house in the White Belt? If you were on Earth, whatever it be dollars, yen, and marks, it was uh, princely sum of money, no matter how you look at it. I don't know this word. One moment. Mhm. Prince, okay. Hmm. Is it from word prince? Probably. Um. Anyway, princely sum of money, no matter how you looked at it. Naturally, there is no way Tayam could have all that much. Uh, Sorry. Naturally, there is no way that Tayam could have all that much money. If there was someone in need who was also someone he thought he could trust, he would loan a lot out to them, and then his own family funds were running low. Plus, all Tayama had in his possession were loan contracts. So, the people who pursued Tayam to return the money said that if he wasn't able to pay back the money, then they would buy back the contracts at a discount. Really, if that's really how it is, that's not too bad. I thought that for a brief moment, but then Lisa looked at me. I realized that there was more to this. So, in our words, the lender changed from Tayama to these our guys then. Yes, for us the loan is indefinite, but as precaution the contract is revived every 3 years. Tayama said that if there are any issue found during that time, things will be bad. Bad? In other words, you'll have to sell everything off in order to pay it off. I don't really understand, but it sounds like the court can force a disposition. In that case, no matter what assets you have, that have to be sold in a fire sale. So even a loan of 50,000 moles could be difficult. So what is why he asked you to pay it all back now? Exactly. He said instead of hurrying to sell it at a loss, take the time to find someone who would be willing to buy the property at a high price. Tayama honestly meant well then he came by. If everything Tayama said could be believed, that is, I wasn't going to say it out loud. I honestly didn't think that Tayama was a sneaky kind of guy. Of course, were adults who possessed the down and dirt skills of deception. But if that were the case, I felt that Tayama would have presented himself in a much better light. But, and as Lisa punctuated the conversation, my mind stopped wondering. Hagana, that child is around sharp, and yesterday it seems that she caught wind that something was going on. And then it seemed as if she caught wind of this talk as well. In a fit of rage, did she confront Tayama then? I asked nervously as Lisa looked like she was slipping deeper into this depression. She nodded. At that moment, the image of Hagana as she came to look for Chris about the tunnel crossed my mind. I went to Chris because I figured she'd know about Hagana. Hagana probably went to Chris because she figured Chris would know about the neighborhood. Since Tayama lent money in this neighborhood, certainly she would seen his tired appearance before. It was dreadful, honestly. Honestly, it caused Tayama a lot of distress. Even in normal circumstances for a money lender, even if they don't actually do anything bad, it's too easy to suspect that they're capable of doing something better anyway. Without knowing the facts, Tayama looked like a bad guy, doesn't he? And then, he's someone who knows in this area and has been able to continue his work without any major problems, but and that injury, oh, this is loudly quickly, and her gaze turned from living room to far down the corridor. And then, in a low voice, she spoke. Thanks to this, I was able to calm Hagana down from her anger. Mm, okay. In our words, at that moment Hagana had either drowned or hit something probably. I know that she didn't that all for me, but that was always the end result. That time with me in the clothing store was the same thing. She always seems to blame herself for that happened. And if there's anything she can do, no matter where it is, she will try to do something I imagine. A difficult personality. Lisa did not disagree with my mumbling. She's a serious girl, stubbornly serious. Why can she get rewarded for her toils, I wonder? Honestly, what was the Lord thinking? Lisa seemed to laugh in sorrow, then looked downcast before falling silent. But I couldn't stand the silence and spoke up quite quickly. Well, what are you going to do? Eh? The loan. Return was what was given, what was expected. But if everything in the world went well, I'd be living in a penthouse in Newton City by now. Yes, what should we do? Aziza said that she looked troubled as she smiled. If she really had no way to repay that money, then I might just blow my lid. I would probably think that she should do whatever she could and work. But Lisa actually had a means to pay it back. If she sold off things like food books, odds are she would be able to pack back the loan. But even then, Lisa thought about that before and wasn't a loss. Lisa cared for those books as if they're as if they were a part of her. And if she were to sell those books, she'd never see them again. Studying ancient Earth religions at Open Notch University on the Moon, setting up a church, a relic from centuries past, sheltering runaways and fools that have nowhere else to go, reading hundreds years old books from Earth about God on rainy days, those were things that she enjoyed doing. For someone so unsuited for the Moon, Lisa was very mature. Besides, if I were to make a list of people I could rely on, I'm sure Lisa's name would be propelled on top. And so, that same Lisa gave a troubled smile. There was no doubt Hagan ran over to Toyama's place and lashed out insults at him. If not that, then perhaps she pressed the point of saying herself off. As as it Hagana as it was Hagana we were talking about, your possibility was believable. Lisa wrapped her hands around the cup of I poured for her, tilted it slowly, and sipped on it. Cocoa always tastes good. Somehow, those empty words were gut-wrenching to me. Did you prepare the buff as well? Just as you asked me to. Hehe, thank you. I guess this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you and Hagana over the phone to remember to eat and get along with each other. Ah, it wasn't a joke worth laughing at, so I just let out a snort of discontent. It didn't seem as if Lisa wanted to laugh either, and she put down the cup and stood up. Thank you very much. There's an hour cup left. Hmm? Lisa paused for a moment and laughed slightly as she straightened her shoulders. I don't want to get fat. Oh, I hope you won't mind if I use the buff first. Ah, no, that's fine by me. Hmm. I'll be angry if you peep. Of course I won't. I reacted reflexively, and only then did Lisa laugh happily. Gleaming behind that smile, she went towards the bathroom. It seemed that her manner of walking had a listless, forlorn manner to it. If I thought the door closed, and I started at it for no real reason. Hmm. Um, I kind of wondering what Lisa going to do. I mean, obviously, probably Haru going to pay for it, or maybe he gonna use it to actually talk with Hagana and ask her for help to make money. Mm, but to be honestly, I personally don't know. Like, is this book so important? Mm, I mean, I guess it's important for her, but still, like, if there's no Haru, is or Haru don't have money, is Lisa just going to like sell church or something and throw Hagana and Haru on streets or something? Mm, I don't. Let's continue reading. Um, when I heard the door to the bath open and close, I averted my eyes from the door, as if surveillance camera was looking right at me. I mean, okay, from importance of book, like in this moment, it was Haru thinking and not Lisa. So we don't really know what Lisa uh, going to do, or at least thinking to do. Anyway, my eyes then turned towards the single cup left in the sink. It already started to cool down. It's already started to cool down, as the thin layer was floating on top of the milk. What was Lisa going to do after this? What was going to be done was already decided. Without a doubt, she was going to sell those books. The answer was decided from the beginning. All that was left was question of when she'd commit to it. Since it was someone else's affair, I could say it like that. I was aware of this. That is why it was no surprise that Lisa was in the bathroom crying. I've heard from the ruffians in my hometown, that the seaside or even a bathroom was a suitable place for an adult to cry. Was there a good reason to all of this? Probably not, I suppose. There was, then it would have definitely been carried out already. Otherwise, there would be no reason to suffer a slow death, paying interest every month. Pay not the principal would eventually pay off the loan. But if one simply paid the interest, then the loan would never go away. Any grade schooler knew it. However, Lisa had trouble paying the interest, and they had to step in the end. Thus, she had no choice but rely on the final option. Lisa had to sell a part of her. It was better than Hagana selling of her entire body. That was probably how she convinced Hagana, I'd imagine. Much like Earth, the moon was also a place where only the strongest survived. On the moon, they were able to take place that didn't have any sign of life and forcibly built a city on the surface. So there really wasn't any allowance for doing anything half-hearted. West was cold and dark. I wonder if Hagana was crying. Perhaps she was. She was probably blaming herself. If I were in their shoes, it would definitely be quite painful. Lisa was a good person. That made it all the more painful. Tayama had said that Hagana didn't care about Lisa just because she'd given her shelter. I had a feeling about that as well. If it was concerning anyone else in Loner City that was as lonely as Lisa, I wouldn't care as much. 50,000 moles. I wanted that amount of money and once more. 50,000 moles. While staring at the cooling cacao in the sink, I wanted to curse God if he existed. 50,000 moles. How much money did I have? Before Lisa came out of the bath, I went back to my own room and turned on the laptop. On the screen, the trading window was open. Cash balance 7,200, uh, 70, 72,610 moves. For someone working in a top company in this lunar city, it might have been peanuts, but for everyone else, it was a fair sum of money. I had built this up from the 2,000 moves I had on hand originally. Every day until night, concentrating without eating or drinking, literally building it up with dogged determination. Taking out 50,000 moves would leave me with 22,000 moves. Those numbers made me want to throw up. When I don't even want to spend a few dozen moves, was there any need for me to give 50,000 moves for someone else's sake? Just what did Lisa mean to me? Of course I warned her for saving me from the police. But that was it. Hmm. It, I don't remember how long ago Haru actually ran away from his parents. Like, how much time take for him actually make this money? I mean, obviously it's like painful to spend so much money, but still. Um, um, okay, one moment. Let me try to find this information. Um, and try don't get spoilers. Ah, okay. Uh, Fortunately, Wiki forced this No, it's kinda really empty. Mm, oh, mm, pum, 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 pum. Yeah, unfortunately, there is no this information unless I gonna actually try to find it, and then I afraid to get spoilers. So I guess let's just continue reading. Um, hmm, I mean, okay. Anyway, oh, um, okay. Of course, I won't her for saving me from the police, but what was it? I went out. I'm leaving here. I'm probably paying for that ride. So I went out. Lisa really was in trouble. There was absolutely no reason why I had to part with my own money. On top of that, Lisa had a way of paying back the debt. Sell the old books in her room. But would be all it took. Despite despite all this, I couldn't shake the mental image of Lisa being that exhausted. For the first time, I learned that watching someone have to part with something there, something. Sorry, let me read again. For the first time, I learned that watching someone have to part with something truly dear to them could be physically painful for the watchers themselves. And that was why I started the laptop screen unable to move. In my hands was a way to rescue Lisa from her plight. Furthermore, I even had a reason to give it to her. She had said that after selling those books, she would never be able to get her hands on them again. But in my case, that wasn't true. If my investment method were truly great, if, the, if they'd bring me results befitting my dreams, then giving away 50,000 moves wouldn't be one bit of a problem. Just grow the remaining amount like crazy. A few years later, uh, 50,000 moves would be merely something to sneeze at. If the 2,000 moves I had, I grew it 35 times to 70,000 moves in 3 months. Okay, there's our answer. I mean, okay, honestly, I kinda feel like, yeah, since he do this much money in 3 months, only in 3 months, it's kinda don't really too bad to spend it, especially since he's still gonna have 20,000. Um, like he can't make more money right now since he um uh, going to participate in this tournament. Sorry, like for some reason I always forget the word that they use for this. It's not tournament, but yeah. Uh, anyway, close enough. So yeah, but from what we know, it's already almost end of this. It's like 40 days. So I guess it won't be too bad. Anyway, if I had faith in the correctness of my ways, then I shouldn't be feeling this hesitation or at handing over 50,000 moves. That means that the thing making me hesitate was either outrageous stinginess or a lack of faith in my investment methods. I was supposed to have decided that if I couldn't fulfill my dreams, there'd be no point in me leaving. And yet, I thought I was on the verge of declaring that I could not fulfill my dreams. I was losing my nerve. If I couldn't just casually pop off the 50,000 moves, when it all be a lie. I'd be a liar. In front of the laptop, I tied my hands into fists. I ground my teeth and just how pathetic I was. It was enough to make me want to cry. Are you really that small a person? Some punk who only knows how to pick up pennies. I berated myself with whose insults. I looked up and looked listlessly around the room, so much that you'd think the right answer was hidden somewhere in there. No, I knew what the right answer was, and I just didn't have the guts to take the plunge. And then, when my line of sight fell on the divided between the room and the next, I recalled Hagana. Hagana had the courage to take the plunge. She had the courage to say by me. Moreover, saying it not like some sheltered self-centered brat, but as someone who had really been sold from Earth. As someone who knew exactly what it means to be sold. She had the courage to step into that hell once more. But Lisa would never accept it. Hagana probably really felt that if only Lisa could be saved, then whatever happened to Hagana herself was acceptable. I thought, compared to Hagana's troubles, my dilemma was luxury. Uh, is it luxury? I believe it's luxury. 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 Okay. Sorry. I recall the exchange we had in the living room when I had out to make peace with her. We are, we are doing all that we can to survive. Hagana's words struck me once more in the chest. Was I doing all what I could to survive? Was I doing things to the limit of my abilities? That was the moment. That was when I remembered the investment contest. Okay, what contest? Uh, pretty sure I gonna forget it again. Like, I'm already tried to remember it. Anyway, mm, prize money. Dashing to Economic Research Center homepage. I logged in, I look at the summary. For, for the top ranking people, there were prizes. First got 20,000 moles, second got 50,000, and third got 30,000, while fourth and fifth each had 20,000. Getting second would be wonderful. Uh, Even the third would be a great help. But what moved my heart was existence of the investment contest itself. Even if I lost at the contest, it wouldn't affect my wealth. The contest was like a free lottery. On top of that, there was an important thing, a very important thing. I once again looked up and turned around. Aval was there, dividing this room from the next. But that Hagana was surely crying. She must be there, blaming herself and crying over how she couldn't do anything for her beloved Lisa. Hagana, who closely blabbed her way through hagglings as a way to thanking me. And then I told her how her haggling stunk. She was so angry, she practically kicked my leg off and cried. So that must have been her base personality. But now what I thought about it, she might not have had any room to breathe. For example, even if she could teach kids math, she wasn't helping them advance to better schools in any real sense if she was unable to change the economic circumstances surrounding them. Hegel had probably been thrown around by conditions like that, brought to the moon, then wound up at Lisa's place after running away. Apparently, math could solve problems allegedly. However, Hagan came here without solving a single real-world problem. In Toyama's way of saying things, like a check that hadn't even broke itself. With respect to Hagana, the investment contest was a big opportunity. Hagana would be of help to Lisa, and I would be able to clear Hagana's misunderstanding. Plus, if it all went well, then we'd be all happy. I grabbed the laptop, flew out of my room, and headed to the living room. The living room had returned to silence, and Lisa wasn't around. Immediately turning around and running down the hall, I headed up the street to step stairs to the second floor. Along the way, I saw light on in Lisa's room. Without hesitation and without knocking, I opened the door to Lisa's room. Interesting. So he decided to talk to Lisa first. I mean, it probably makes sense because conversation with Hagana probably gonna be hard, or maybe not. Mm, I mean, funny enough, but yeah, I think what asking Hagana to help Gon is a good idea. Like, yeah, he can just pay money himself, but then again, Hagana probably not gonna be feel really good about it. Uh, like she probably gonna think it was her fault again or something. So asking her actually to help should make things better. Anyway, surprised Lisa turned around. She was in the middle of taking a few books from the shelf. Her hair was still damp, and her eyes were red and puffy. She looked like a girl who lost her way on a rainy day. I didn't want to see Lisa with such face. That's why I opened the laptop. I showed the screen in the dazed Lisa's face. Hmm? There's a way. Lisa sniffled like a kid. I want you to convince Hagana. Huh? I want to borrow your talents. I explained everything to Lisa. 10 minutes later, both of us were knocking on Hagana's door. And when we knocked, Hagana didn't come out. Hagana, are you awake? Lisa asked in a small voice. If she had exhausted herself from crying and fell asleep, we could just wait until morning. Whatever painful things may happen, things always became more manageable if you could get past the dark night. By that logic, she would be calmer tomorrow, and broaching the subject to her then might have been better. That's what I was thinking. But after Lisa knocked on the door and called out, she put her ear by the door softly. At that moment, her expression changed, as if she had heard a horrifying revolving sound, like the scraping of metal on metal. Before I could ask, Lisa put her hand on the door knob and turned it slowly. She opened the door quietly, as if something in the room would be damaged with the slightest shock. The door slowly opened, and the light from the hallway flowed into the dark room. Lisa opened the door, but didn't try to enter the room immediately. I thought it was odd, but quickly saw the reason. Hagan's room was ever better than the one that I had rented out, and it was completely dark. But within the dark room, there was a place where the darkness was even deeper. What the light fell upon was blackness, a black darker than darkness. A sight to which I didn't know what to say, didn't know what to think. A sickening taste filled my mouth. In a corridor of the room, Haga was hugging her knees and crying. Hagana. When Lizzie finally called her name, Hagana's body shook like an absolutely terrified child. Sorry, let me read it again. When Lizzie finally called her name, Hagana's body shook like an absolutely terrified child. Hagana, I have something to talk about. There was no further reaction to Liza's word. It seems like she was trying to shrink her already slender body down even more, hugging her knees desperately and burying her face in them. From the looks of it, instead of crying out of sadness, it seems more like she was crying out of anger. Squeeze down, shrink even more. If only I just didn't exist in the first place. That was the kind of anger I felt from her. Hagana. Lisa spoke softly and slowly stepped forward. It wasn't a big room, so she was in front of Hagana in a moment. Hagana's body quivered, then changed position. I had thought it was impossible for her to get smaller, but she pulled her feet in tightly, pulled her head down more, and then moved her arms from her knees up to cover her head. So, huh? I'm so. Hagana was shaking, so much that I could see. Uh, so much that I could see it the other way from the door. His profile hardened. harder than it if you shouted any insult in the world at her. Lisa was furious, but she wasn't at Hagana. Just by looking at Hagana, I couldn't understand in a way. She was in the corner of the dark room, protecting her head, visibly shaking. No matter how angry Lisa was, Hagana should have known that there was no need to be this afraid. And Chris, of all people, uh, probably hadn't been this terrified. Hagana had lived a life where she had to tremble in the corner, protecting her head if she made any sort of mistake. Hagana hadn't raised her head and didn't seem to realize that the person in front of her was Lisa. She simply continued to apologize, so desperately the words wouldn't come out. But Lisa was probably angry at was the rain of misfortune that had come down upon Hagana. Lisa crouched down in front of the terrified Hagana, sensing that Hagana flinched back, and thought there was nowhere left to retreat. She pulled back. Lisa gently grasped Hagana's thin wrists, and then wrapped her hands around her shaking fingers. Hagana, it's okay. It's alright. Gently putting her head against Hagana's, Lisa whispered over and over. It seemed like each time Hagana said that she was sorry, Lisa would say that it was alright. Calm down. She murmured softly in Hagana's ear. Somehow she even seemed to be smiling in enjoyment. Hagana was making sobbing sounds. Lisa didn't rush. Eventually, Hagana's small head moved. Her teary eyes peered through her disheveled hair. Hagana, do you know who I am? Lisa asked. Hagana stared at Lisa with a teary, exhausted face. Eventually, with a fresh tear flowing in her eyes, she nodded slowly. Wait, give me a second. Sorry, I needed to pour a little water for me, since I finished compot, but then drink before. Drink before. We already streaming quite a long time. To be honest, I almost didn't notice it. But I kinda want to finish this scene. So let's finish it. That's a good girl. Saying that, Lisa embraced Hagana's head. I'm sorry. Hagana repeated herself again, but not in the childlike way she had before. It was a clearer, more well-defined thing. Okay, Hagana, to be honest, you'll elbow really hard. The bruise on Lisa's face was apparently from Hagana's elbow. She must have struck with quite a bit of force. But that was something like an accident. I'm not angry. But it's true what I don't approve of going to Mr. Yama without thinking about the consequences. Only with what you did there. Hagana felt silent, but it was different from when she had been terrified. While she was in Lisa's arms, the fact that Hagana wanted to make an excuse was apparent even to me. Thanks to the situation, even Lisa smiled really as she held Hagana. But what? That was something that you did for me, right? Lisa asked as she once again embraced Hagana. The darkly dressed small girl in Lisa's arms nodded repeatedly, like a heartbeat. Those feelings make me happy, very much so. Hagana looked up and Lisa met her gaze full on with a smile. Hagana had calmed down for the most part, but now once again burst into tears. Lisa cuddled Hagana's head gently against her chest. Hagana, Al's by the door. If you cry too much, he's going to notice. I saw her shrink down in Lisa's arms. You're using me for that. I glared at Lisa, but she only winked at me out of the corridor of her eye. Oh, sorry. But she only winked at me out of the corner of her eyes. Armero? he said. Now trying to imagine how corridors of the eye can look like. Anyway, um, unable to object, I hid myself by the side of the door. And also, Hal's got a few things he wants to talk to you about. Ah, you shouldn't say that. I couldn't hear it, but apparently Lisa heard something. It's probably something like she had nothing to say to me anyway. Hear that you said terrible things about Hal. He was really hurt by that. While explaining the investment contest and the possibility of using Kagana's talent and math, I had also told that full story. If she thought what I was some worthless punk who never worked and stole money from houses. Sorry. Probably we should stop the stream coming soon, but I hope this scene not gonna be too long. Anyway, if she thought that I was some worthless punk who never worked and stole money from houses, this whole plan wouldn't even stand up, not to mention my pride. However, I was sadly cheering on Lisa to say more. Kagana should learn that her words could hurt our people. Plus, I heard that all of that was a misunderstanding on your part. Lies. That word I could clearly hear. Right after I heard Lisa laughing lightly. Kagana, you're surprisingly childish, you know? Lisa was very good at driving at person's pride. Thus maybe I might not have to sell my books. What? Thanks to Hal. From the sound of cloth rustling, I knew that Kagana had raised her head. Along the way, you could almost hear the sound of her face crying up at Lisa's words. Hal seems to be working properly. Well, I wonder if it's called work. I don't really get it, but in any case, you're earning money. Quite a bit of it. Really? Really. And I'm a bit surprised. It was quite a bit of money, so it seemed Hal was afraid and didn't say anything. Well, it makes sense. If you can't trust Hal, then he can't trust you. Do you understand what I'm saying? When I peeked in the room, Lisa was combing Kagana's hair with her fingers, while caressing Kagana's stubborn face. But Hal said that he lent us the money he worked hard to cover, under certain circumstances. I've called 50,000 moves, you know? At Lisa's words, Kagana made a pained face. Kagana had thought that she was unable to gather that sort of money by herself, and had no choice but to sell herself. But as you know, Hal's got that rather level-headed personality, so there are conditions. It's that you lend him your skills. Huh? Kagana was clearly surprised. Her eyes had been on the verge of sleep as Lisa brushed her hair, but now they were wide open. You understand, Hal saying that he wants to borrow your skills. Mine? Yes, your skills at math. If Kagana had been quite literally purchased from the earth and brought her for her math abilities, then her proposal was a very awkward one. But I had absolutely no intention of saying I wanted to buy her powers. Lisa had also confirmed that point very roughly with me. It seemed that he had wanted to say it much sooner, but you got furious, shouted and hit him in the leg, so he couldn't say it. Kagana slugged childishly and looked down. Lisa laughed and her gaze drifted up while still keeping her head down. I don't think there's any other condition than that. Kagana, someone truly needs you one best skill. And that would save Lisa, and moreover be useful to me, and probably would even save Kagana herself. If her skills in math could bring success in trading, then Kagana would have found a way to make money for herself. It was the same of obtaining a tool to solve many of the problems that caused her all this pain for so long. Kagana. Kagana slowly looked up with Lisa called her name. What would I do? What? There Lisa's word hesitated. Inside I was a bit exasperated, but Lisa didn't seem very knowledgeable about this sort of thing, so there was no helping it. Hal, Lisa called out. I, as I sat next to the door frame, with my back to the wall, I answered her. What? Explain things to Hagana, please. At Lisa's words, I half rose, then stopped short. Does that mean I can go over there? Hagana probably didn't want me to see her teary face. She laughed a bit at me when I asked her that question, as it contained a bit of self-deprecation. How about it, Hagana? He asked the question, and apparently Hagana whispered something in her ear. After a bit of whispering, Lisa answered, Can you wait just 10 minutes? What? When I replied, Lisa left some words with Hagana before standing up. Then, sticking her head out of the room, she looked down at me and spoke. A lady needs time to be presentable. Is that so? Just wait a minute, okay? Still seated, I dropped my shoulders and made to go back to my room while shaking my head. Lisa called out to me from behind. Hal. Now what? Thank you. Saying that when I turned my head around, Lisa then popped back into the room. For a while I continued to stand looking backwards. It's not like we had solved any issues this very moment. But even then, the rundown and rusty gears seemed to start moving together again. Whether they end up turning smoothly, no one knew. However, as I returned to my room, a lightness was in my chest. Should we stop here? Or we should wait until he gonna explain things? Mm, I kind of want to reading a little bit more. It just I kind of feel like starting struggle with words. I mean, I'm already kind of surprised that I'm read so long and did not notice. Mm, okay, let's hope this scene not gonna be too long. Mm, so let's read. It's called for me 10 minutes later, and I went out to the living room. I'm sorry. Those were the first words said to me the instant I returned to the living room and faced Hagan with a table between us. It was so sudden I forgot to breathe. Her eyes still had some traces of her crying, and her lips were still somewhat silently tied with stubbornness. Hagan didn't look at me and stared at the table, but I clearly heard her say that she was sorry. When I looked at Lisa haltingly, she had a satisfied smile on her face. I apologized. When Hagan finally opened her mouth, that came out. Lisa's smiling face remained frozen that way, but I was more relieved at those words. I heard. When I said that, she finally looked at me. That usual piercing gaze was the same, but the sharp stray cat-like suspicion wasn't there. It was more like a kid who was being stubborn and on a brave face. So Hal, you're fine with these two, right? It's good. I shrugged. Well then, can you explain things more concretely? I didn't really get it with just one run through. With that embarrassed laugh, she probably really didn't understand that stuff very well. But even if were true, then that meant that Lisa trusted me despite not really grasping what I had said. It's not difficult. Win the investing contest, get 200,000 moves. When I said that directly, Hagana's eyes went so wide they looked almost round. There's that thing called stock investing, right? In a in a simulation of that, complete with our people, and the guy who earns the most wins. First prize 200 moves, second 50,000. So we just have to get second, right? Third place gets three, sorry. 30,000 moles, which I'd be thankful for. Lisa pressed her lips together lightly, then urged me with her hands to go on. But I don't know anything about stocks. Hagana was the one who interrupted. She was glaring at me bravely, but I said that she was uneasy. Somehow, once you notice these inconsistencies, Hagana really did seem unsteady and fragile. You're smart, aren't you? But it seemed that she had the strength left to handle my jobs. Compared to you, Brad. Hagana. Lisa gave a small warning. Choking off her words with a small ah, she looked at Lisa. She looked at me. Compared to you, Hal. Then there's no problem. Because the hmm, because the rules are very simple. Really? Lisa was the one who asked. The basic idea is to buy stock when it's low and sell when it's high. Simple, right? Both Lisa and Hagal looked at each other quickly, then turned to look at me at the same time. That's really all there is. Of course, there's a way to sell high and buy back then it's low too. But that stuff is for later. Right now, the basics of our talk lies elsewhere. As I spoke, I worked with the laptop and drew up a stock, displaying its trading info. It was the most famous company on the moon, Emerald Industries. If you look at the stock closely, it boils down to one thing. Is company stock, let's say tomorrow, the day after, or even in the next few minutes. In any case, sometime in the future. If you can predict that it will be higher or lower, then, then you'd be able to profit from it. Swinging the laptop around, I set it in front of Lisa and Hagana. Lisa looked like she was getting a headache just from glancing at the numbers and graphs. Hagana appeared intently at it, like a cat peering into a mirror. There's a number of places to get clues. Leaning over, I turned the laptop halfway towards myself. Hagana looked at me, then at the laptop. First, Hal, why don't you come over here? Hmm? Well, isn't it hard to explain like that? Saying that, she got up from her chair and walked to the other side of the table. That is to say, my side, and sat next to me. I'm just absolutely no good at this stuff. Lisa said with true distaste. For some weirdo who came to the moon to learn about religious history, she probably didn't mix well with the moon colony's biggest alchemic art. At the very least, listen. As I spoke, I got off my chair and went to where Lisa had been sitting. For an instant, I was thinking Hagana my sorry. Mhm. For an instant, I was thinking Hagana might object, but she paid me no heed and continued looking at the information display. Whose black eyes of hers with the laptop screen white light reflected in them shone like jewels. When I sat next to her, I spun the laptop towards us. Drawn by that, Hagana's face followed it as if she really were a cat. As if she had only now realized where I was, she gave me a brief glance before turning back to the screen. Okay, stock have a price. Weekday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They're traded. When there are lots of buyers, the price obviously goes up. When there are lots of sellers, it goes down. Obviously. Right. But it's hard to predict that obvious thing. Hagana's eyes were wide with curiosity and looked steadily at me. Why? Because no one really knows whether the company would make a profit or not. Stocks are essentially a piece of ownership of a company. If you buy up all of the stock that company issues, then you'd become the owner of the company. If the company makes a profit, you control that company, then it's silly if you don't become rich, right? That's why the stocks of profitable companies go up. And if they don't profit, it falls. Exactly. However, whatever company is profitable every single day, no one, not even the company workers, know. Take Emerald Industries, for example. On the moon and the earth, they have around 300,000 workers. And if you add in their partners, there's million. To know every last transaction they make, it's impossible. And what do we do? Don't know. Everyone guesses and trades. Agana looked up from the laptop and glared at me. Lies. It's true. But then... Agana said that, then looked back at the screen, then back at me. Everyone is betting money on this, aren't they? Yep, that's why they're guessing very seriously. Then Lisa, sitting across the table, heard this. She gave a little laugh. There's a number of ways to guess. One is to reach the company and decide that one is research the company and decide that ever it's profitable or not. This Emerald Industries is the one company that can repair the space elevators. Every year, a huge amount of money is sure to come in. On top of that, they are involved in much of the development of the lunar surface. Is an ultra-top brand company. They also made the dome. That was from an event to buy clothes. When I thought about her, remember that conversation, it made me a bit happy. Yep, they also made the two skies. Amazing. Yes, it's an amazing company, and everyone thinks it'll be profitable. Then we just have to buy this. Basically. But it's obvious that it's profitable, so everyone buys it. When everyone buys it, the price goes up. When that's the case, the price can go up past the price where it should be. See, there is this PE here. Yeah, if stock is ownership of the company, and if company had 100 shares, then one share would be worth about 100th of the company. Yes. Now, the profit of the company divided among the shares would give an indication of whether the share price was high or not. Yeah, probably should stop earlier. Since it's kinda hard explanations, at least a little hard for me. I mean, it's not like I kinda feel it's basic stuff, but still. Since we're streaming already almost 2 hours, it's a little hard to read. But anyways, since we already started, we probably should reach some good stopping point. So we don't have a choice, so let's continue. I played with the laptop screen and then enlarged the selected part. If one share of a company was earning only 10 moons, but the stock price was 1 million moons, while another company was earning only 10 moons, but price at 20 moons, which would you buy? Lisa was already clutching her head in her seat. Meanwhile, Hagana, without this slightest hint of a doubt, looked at me directly and spoke. The 20 moon stock. Right. For the amount of money paid out, the amount of money earned is different. No matter how great the company, if the stock price continues climbing faster than its profits, then it will inevitably hit the inappropriate price. And I suppose to predict that. With math? Nope. When I said that, Hagana browsed forward. It probably seemed like I was being spiteful or explaining things in a roundabout way, but I was sure Hagana didn't feel as upset as she looked. For some reason I just felt that. But now, you've got a sense of what stock are, right? Just the parts of you explain it, Hal. Then decided to change her tone halfway through on her own. Lisa had on an extremely happy smile, and of course Hagana didn't miss it. She made little embarrassed glance at Lisa, but since Lisa got up from her chair, she looked back at me in relief. So in general, predicting a stock involves deciding whether it will be profitable or not. But like I said before, no one knows what's going on every day. Let alone next month, next year. There have been ultra top rank companies that had an accident. paid a deftly amount of compensation and went out of business. That happens quite a bit. That's why everyone uses different methods of predicting. Math? Aha, calm down. When I laughed it, Hagana made her face like I had flickered her nose with my finger. And she came back to herself and glared at me. From the part on her lips, she was saying that was embarrassing. If I don't explain some of our things first, it's hard to explain why. At my worst, Hagana hesitated a little, but eventually nodded. This here is a graph of a stock price. Returning to the information page, I indicated the zigzagging line in the center of the screen. Every day, the stock price is plotted, and the points are connected. They call these charts. It's all choppy. Exactly. But because the Emerald Thunder is profitable, it's overall going up in value. Yeah. For our companies, it doesn't work that way. For example, this one, or this, and so on. Yeah. So, there's as many graphs as there are kinds of stocks and types of trades. Thousands of stocks, decades of time. And some. Some board fell on notice one day. In the center of the chart, on the center of the chart, there is a few distinctive things. Ryan stared at me, then looked at the chart on the screen. The most famous one would be this head and shoulders thing. You have in the center there is mountain, and on both sides there is a small mountain. Isn't it like a person's head and shoulders? Somewhat. When this shape goes up, the big mountain is often the peak for the price, and in the future the chance it's going to slide down are high. Really? That's what they say. Don't get mad. I'm saying that from looking at past charts, there's a way to predict that will happen in the future. Hakan looked like a kid, used to being tricked and being very cautious, but she managed to nod. It was there that Lisa, who had stood up from her chair to do something by sink, came over with Coco. Anyway, the method of predicting this, or what with a graph, use a form of map. For example, Hakan's expression changed. See how there's a smooth line behind the jagged ones? But it's also a stock price. That's called a moving average. For example, if you start on May 1st and from them take the last 30 days of prices and then plot the average. Then next to it, on May 2nd, you take the last 30 days of prices and plot that. When you do that, the line becomes quite smooth. Yeah. Even if the daily movements are really zigzaggy, when you average them like this, you can sort of tell whatever it's overall going up, down, and sideways. And there's a way of trading where you trust in those big movements. If the big line is trading upwards, then it feels like it's going to go up forever, doesn't it? Wait. Now I'm thinking, I kinda wish they actually show us think what he's explaining. Like, I mean, I can somehow imagine it, but still, this explanation was much easier if he kind of just show it on screen, and I don't really understand why they don't do it, since it don't really need some like really good graphics or something. Anyway, did I read it? Don't remember. If the big line is trending upwards, then it feels like it's going to go up forever, doesn't it? I can look at the graph and know it sincerely. So, there's a way of trading where guys with too much time on their hands to look at charts of companies over the days, and by looking at the moving averages, predict that either things will go up or down. What kind of calculations isn't hard? I'm supposed to do that? Well, you could, but given enough time, even I could do that. Analyzing charts was apparently the first thing beginners in stocks do. When you open an account, you can use a tool that has its own famous charts analyzing tools built into it for free. But before I started trading, I tried using it for a few things and was sure that none of them was useful. So, the thing what I want you to try to do is one step beyond this stuff. Beyond? Yeah. Did you ever see the Special Water Service diagrams? I'm gonna blink at my question. The Special Waters? Yeah. The thing shows prediction about whatever trash would strike it right. Yeah. Physics can predict to insane accuracy the movements of tiny lamp that flying around in orbit and few tens of kilometers at a few tens of kilometers a second. It's predicting the future, right? I don't really know much about physics, but probably yes. If that's the case, there seems to be some that think that we might to be able to predict the movements of stock prices with math, just like with heavy bodies. Sorry, have, just like with heavenly bodies. Hagan looked quietly at me, and then at the screen. So essentially, find formula that drafts these graphs. Exactly. However it's possible, I don't know. However, in the world there are fools who are making huge profits with such a method. Can it be done? Kagan's question was natural. And myself, even myself, I was half believing, half doubting. However, it was better than doing nothing. Infinitely better. And if we didn't know whatever we'd reach our destination, as long as we didn't move, we'd never get there. Because of that, I myself ran away from my home village. I don't know. When I answered, Hagan grimaced and looked at me. Seeing Hagan's gaze at my cheek, I looked at the screen and spoke. But it's not about whatever we can or can't. Eh? We have no choice but to do it. The corner of my eye, I could see that Hagan was stunned. Her mouth tried to move and say something, but words didn't form, and her lips just chewed at the air. Besides, the price is 200,000 moves. No entry fee. Is there is a reason we shouldn't participate? Hagana had been lamenting over how her strength math was so powerless at solving real world problems. This investing contest would definitely become a tiny lead to Hagana finding a way forward. Of course, I would rewards myself. Reap rewards myself. While looking at me, she held her breath. From there, she looked at the computer screen out of the corner of her eye and looked back at me. Her face was frozen stiff like she had been left in the mouth of all freezers. However, Hagana was staring at me. Hagana was staring at me. Whose black eyes kept looking steadily at me. I hope it's gonna end soon. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's interesting to read, but I kind of feel like I'm starting to do too much mistakes. Anyway, the moon wasn't nice. Friendly place that carried people who didn't try to walk their own feet. However, whose foot try could have their hands held. I guess back at Hagana. And then Hagana said this. Out of 5,421, what? I had managed to already arrive all the way to 3,227. There wasn't one I couldn't solve. It took a full 10 seconds to realize she was talking about the math theorems, but she had continued to derive in her room for the longest time. I girl spent that time with determination. Or perhaps for a girl who had been sold to the moon, it took that much courage. Therefore, it should be solvable. Lisa had said that Hagana was a serious girl. I had thought that she was just stubborn, but when I realized that Hagana was clutching her fist fiercely beneath the table, I accepted Lisa's words. It should be solvable. Hagana repeated that and closed her eyes. I sensed strength in her pose, Oh, sorry, in that pose, because I knew just how defiant Hagana was. When she opened her eyes, Hagana took a clear step forward. Teach me all the rules. Accepting whose words I answered. You got it. I had this feeling that Lisa, who had sat on the sofa after making the cocoa, was smiling as she watched us. However, even though Hagana asked me to teach her, there were very few things that I could explain using words. It was because I was the type of trader who looked at the prices every day, read the news, and then wrote to the feel of the market. If you ask why I made a trade, I had nothing to say or that I looked at how everything felt. I had thought about explaining everything about a trading system once now, but once I thought about how I'd have to explain the various things, it became a huge job. And just going through the list of typical indicators that had an effect on stock was a huge amount of material. From interest and exchange rates, energy prices, things that affect stocks on broad level, the gold and silver prices, the soybeans and wheat on the commodities markets, then there were the major markets in indices and dividend payments. By the time I explained the minutiae of different stocks types and ownership rations, I was exhausted. Once I thought about it, I realized I had pretty much explained in one sitting everything I had spent months researching. Hagan had an unbelievable memory and remembered it all. What's this? That? How it's related to the thing from before? She asked as she went. And then she quickly absorbed it all. If Lisa hadn't said to call it a day, Hagan might have squeezed information out of me all night. On that note, the next day I woke to the sound of Hagan knocking on my door. Okay, we finished this day. So now I believe it's good enough place to stop. Like it still feel like they continue their conversation, but yeah. Anyway, let's stop here. We already streaming for almost 2 hours. I mean, it actually, I believe, was 2 hours. So yeah, let's stop here. Next World Economic Steam will be on next Monday. But for now, goodbye. Have a nice time of the day.